Hello and welcome everybody to our series Climate Risk Stress Test. And today with me is Dr. Nicole.roettmer and I'm Klaus.boecker from PwC. Nicole, you hardly need no introduction. You are a well-known expert when it comes to climate risk. You have been into this topic for quite a long time, at a time actually when people were still dormant and unfortunately sleeping, taking things not really serious. So, may I ask you a couple of questions regarding the tool of the time, Climate Excellent by PwC?
Of course, it's a pleasure.
So, what is this Climate Excellent tool? What can you explain briefly? What is it behind it?
So the underlying idea is that we might be moving into different climate worlds, along different climate pathways, 1.5 net 0 degrees warming, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, maybe even 5 degrees. And the question is, what does it do to the cash flow of companies, of assets, of specific technologies in specific regions? How does it change the balance sheet of potentially, for example, a bank? And what then are the implications across an entire portfolio, but also then for title selection or a future portfolio construction.
Okay, so you really try to measure, you try to get a grip on the numbers behind it because you were mentioning some bold balance sheet figures. This is very interesting, thank you. So now in particular, people are talking about climate stress testing, the supervisors performing the stress test, they're demanding the stress test. So could you elaborate a little bit, how can we use this tool when it comes to stress testing in particular?
One element of the typical stress tests across the board, but also, for example, in the ECB use case is around what do we expect as long-term potential risks and opportunities out of current portfolios. And that is exactly what climate excellence can illustrate across different scenarios with, for example, NGFS scenarios, which has come out recently, but also kind of standard scenarios. So we can provide a view both on the portfolio level, but also on the counterparty level, on a real estate level of where and when specific risk drivers might lead to a deterioration or an increase of, for example, EBITDA, sales, capex requirements across industries, across companies.
Okay, so my understanding is you really calculate, you take a path, you were mentioning this beforehand, and you calculate along the path or different path, probably these figures to give the companies, the clients, new insights, how they perform, how the customers perform, and so on. Did I understand correctly?
That's correct.
Great.
And you might realize that there's assumptions around, for example, dynamic balance sheets. And I think one of the core values that we can provide is, we're modeling on the asset level. So you immediately can see where and why specific companies, sectors, assets might win or lose, but you can also model what would happen if they were starting to adjust. So what is the potential of what you already have in your portfolio? And then, of course, use alternative portfolios and then look at where you would be standing then if you take into consideration, for example, net zero requirements that a lot of institutions have already signed up to.
Oh, that's cool. So apart from stress testing, maybe briefly, can you think of other applications of climate excellence in the realm of, let's say, other risk types, for instance, or are you focusing on stress testing in particular, or what's your take?
I think there's two layers. One layer is around general risks. So the underlying scientific data that we're using can, of course, be used to look at reputation risk, at litigation risk, at physical risk. Of course, we have a full-fledged physical risk module. So that definitely helps to get a full, comprehensive and integrated view, which is one of the core requirements also if you look at NGFS and the generally regulatory frameworks that are put into creation here. The other thing is if you kind of come from a risk perspective, you always get a result also on the opportunity side. So there's a market value as well. So what we're informing isn't just the risk element, but also the strategy of the entire organization, the market side. It's giving you an insight around where to focus your sales efforts, in fact, as well. And you can use it to look at the potential of new technologies and the timing of new technologies when there should be enough uptake and when technology cost curves go down. So it's, in fact, it's kind of more a fundament for decision making across the institution.
Thank you very much. I think this was an excellent short introduction into this fabulous tool, Climate Excellence. And if you want to find out, please check out our website. And thank you very much again. Thank you.
Thank you, Klaus.